Hello, I'm Andrew Neil. Welcome to Inside the Interview, a weekly bonus episode of The Backstory for Tortoise members and Tortoise Plus subscribers on Apple Podcasts. It's the place to hear my reflections on the conversations I have in this series, and in this episode, we'll be discussing the interview I did with left-wing writer and contributing editor at Novara Media, Ash Sarkar. I'm joined, as always, by my producer, Lewis, who was listening to the interview as I gave it. Lewis.
You've met Ash before on various programs you've presented, but probably never like that. Normally in, a sort of panel format with other people where she's there to express a particular view on the politics of the day or an issue of the day. So I'm just interested, before our interview with her, what were your impressions of her?
Well, she impresses for being articulate. She broadcasts well. She comes across well on television and radio. Sometimes in the formats that I've seen her where there hasn't been much time, you could say, well, maybe she's a little glib, or I'd like to know more about that. Why are you taking that position? But all the impression I had was reinforced by this interview, and it did give her a chance to explain more of what she means when she takes particular political stances. So to that extent, it was interesting to see what's the hinterland behind a lot of her broadcast appearances.
And after that conversation, how would you define her politics?
Well, I would define them as a bit confused, or at least confused by this label of communist or communism. I'm actually not sure it's very helpful to her. I mean, she's clearly on the left. Would be on the left of the Labour Party, or perhaps a bit more than that, but that doesn't necessarily have to make you a communist. And I do wonder, and I didn't really get to find out why she's done it this way, but given that communism is so unfashionable, it's a block or a hindrance rather than a help in trying to explain your position. And I think listening to her arguments in a whole range of things, it was an argument for socialism, for sure. There are plenty of people doing that. It was an argument for more than just social democracy or social democrat party politics. I understand that too. But I think the communist label kind of gets in her way. There's a lot of what she had to say, whether one agrees or disagrees with it, it's a different matter, but there's a lot that she had to say which didn't need the label communist, which, as I say, could be holding her back in getting her ideas across rather than being a positive in getting her ideas across.
And it certainly means that there isn't a political party, a vehicle within British politics for people of her opinion to sort of coalesce with and to see the change that they want to see. She's sort of politically homeless, isn't she? And do you think that's a problem for British politics if someone like her is sort of on the outside of traditional party structures, or is that a good thing? Well,
I think there comes a stage and of course she's young and there's plenty of time to do something different. There does come a stage when if you want to make a difference, you can't just be a party of one. That you have to make up your mind that you're going, despite all your reservations, you're going to have to take part in a mainstream movement. You know you won't get all you want, you know you'll be disappointed, you know it'll be frustrating, but you may get something, you may get a bit of what you want. And at the moment, I think Ash Sarkar is a bit of a party of one, and she has a number of positions. Some of them are well thought out, some of them are not so well thought out. Of course, it would benefit by more discourse with other people. At the moment, she's neutralizing herself by remaining almost on her own. That it makes for interesting broadcast, as we'll see in this, as you can see from this interview, it makes for interesting positions, but it limits your ability to affect the political process. And at the end of the day, and this is not something people on the far left always realize, that for all you stake out positions that you think are pure and right, unless you can influence the political process, they make no difference. You may be satisfied, but you make no difference to the condition of the people.
I mean, she is, I suppose, joined in her party of one by the people at Novara Media, where she's a contributing editor, who are all on the left, quite far on the left. And you were interested in that organisation and its mission. Presumably because you're a media man yourself, you're interested in any kind of media product. What did you learn about it and what interested you in that?
Well, I think it's interesting how the whole digital technology revolution has given a voice to marginalized opinions that would previously struggle to get a voice in mainstream media. And Novara Media, which is on the left, quite the far left compared to the mainstream left in this country, has a voice, and it's successful. It's able to crowdfund from like-minded people. It doesn't depend, as she explains, on being bankrolled by some Mr. Big or Miss Big with left-wing views. It seems to be doing reasonably well. It hasn't got a huge reach, but it's still in business, still doing business, still pumping out its particular view of the world. And I think that is a plus. I mean, we all depend on variety and diversity of opinion, and I think it's good that the technology allows something like Novara to have the reach it has. And I think they were quite surprised when one social media company at one stage shut them down, and a whole host of people, not on the left by any means, rushed in to say this is outrageous, Novara's voice should be heard. And it gives people like Ash Sarkar a platform too, which they would not have otherwise. And I think that's in a democracy of letting 1,000 flowers bloom, that is an important part of the process.
Just finally, you were talking about Twitter as well, because she's very active on Twitter, sort of rose to prominence on there. She gets a lot of abuse, as you said, a lot of it horrific. It's interesting that there was a conversation between two people who are active on Twitter, but in different ways and for different reasons, and you have different experiences, I suppose. Did you learn something during that part of the interview about her experience?
Well, her experience, I mean, I get some abuse, but it's nothing compared to what she gets. And what I did learn was that she's very tough. And I think you have to be tough in the business that she's in now. And she admitted it's not water off a duck's back for her. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it can feel dangerous. Some of the threats can feel all too real. But I think she's clearly a woman of great courage as well as conviction, in that it doesn't intimidate her. It doesn't stop her. She bashes on. She continues to say what she thinks. I think, like me, sometimes she sometimes regrets winding up the opposition. And I sometimes do. Sometimes you can't help yourself, but of course it only brings another heavy rain or hard rain on you. But I rather admire the way that she will not be intimidated by the nasties in this world, that she has a message she wants to get out and she's going to get it out. And I hope in doing this interview with Tortoise and doing the backstory that she feels it was another opportunity to get her views across. It was an enjoyable time to interview her. Thanks all of you for listening to this bonus episode of The Backstory for Tortoise members and for Tortoise Plus subscribers on Apple Podcasts. There's one every Friday throughout the series and a new interview every Tuesday. Until then, goodbye.